This is Legends of the Hall, a new partnership between Eastlink and the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. My name is Bruce Rainey, the President and CEO of the Hall of Fame. A pleasure today to welcome the greatest curler this province has ever seen, legendary Colleen Jones. Nice to have you on the program.
And I love that shot I just saw with the broom up in the air.
They're not messing around at Eastlink here at all.
It makes me feel good.
Question for you. The great dichotomy of you is this. If I meet you on the street,
yes,
you're funny, really approachable, always good for a laugh.
Yes.
But when you curl, what happens to the eyes? What happens to you?
Somebody once told me I had Maurice Richard eyes, and some people might think that kind of that whole eye look is not a compliment. And I said, well, that's the nicest thing you could have ever said. I think it's no different that if you met, let's say, a brain surgeon on the street, he'd seem normal. And then when he's doing brain surgery, he gets extremely focused. And with any luck, that focus leads to those eyes right there. And I just think when you knew I was on, and even the girls knew I was on, when those eyes went steely, and when nothing could distract me. And when there's light in the eyes, and if the eyes look too happy, that's when they'd get worried. They'd be like, she's not here today.
Focus, right? Just intense focus.
Focus, and it's, you hope to always find focus, and in our glory days, the focus was easy to find. And, you know, you might call it flow, and every athlete's always trying to get in just the flow, where you can kind of let it go, let it move, let your body do what you've trained it to do, as opposed to when you start thinking too much and nothing just oozes out of your body. When you start thinking too much of, oh, I gotta make the button, I gotta hit the button, it's suddenly a tough shot because your brain is in the way. But if you can just let it go, let it flow, let those eyes be focused, you can make just about anything. You were a pioneer in the mental side of the game. We want to talk about that later. First, though, to the beginning, from a big family. Big family. Great mom and dad. 7 sisters and a little brother. So how does little Colleen get involved with the curling rock? My neighbor up the street was a curler, the Fitzners, and they got my older sister Barb into it at the Mayflower Curling Club in the junior program. And back then the age limit was 14, and so you couldn't even go up into the club until you were 14 years old, unlike in Saskatchewan, where everybody was sort of jam can curling, or curling from the time they came out of the womb. So one by one, when you were 14, rite of passage, it was your turn to join your other sisters up at the club, and you got to go. And the other thing that my older sisters who were curling, Barb, Maureen, and Sheila, when it was my turn to go, they were like, don't embarrass us. Make sure you know what you're doing. And I had practiced on the kitchen floor in my sock feet, so I kind of had the gist of the slide. And back then it was corn brooms, and we would go down in the furnace room and sweep the corn brooms. So by the time I walked onto the ice, I was pretty much trained, at least on the linoleum kitchen floor I was trained. And so there was pressure to keep up with the sisters, and that's a terrific thing when you want to be as good as your other sisters, because I couldn't embarrass them. So then slowly it was my sister Monica's turn, Jennifer and Stephanie, they followed me to the club, all with the same pressure of, you better be good. Right, so of all the sports that could have captured a young girl, why did this one capture you? Well, when you're from a big family, because there's 9 kids, money is always an issue. So are you gonna put your kid in figure skating? Or are you gonna put them in curling? Are you gonna tell them, oh, go be an equestrian? Or go for the $50 membership at the Mayflower Curling Club, where we were using electrical tape on our sneakers. Like, we didn't have curling shoes. And you could get away with that kind of gear. So, and then I'll never forget going to buy my first corn broom at the Canadian Tire in the Old Quimple Road location, which is no longer there, saving up babysitting money when you used to get 75 cents an hour. This made me sound ancient, isn't it? Well, and going to buy the corn broom called the Little Beaver. And so excited that I bought it myself, and I was still using electric tape on the shoe then, didn't have a real slider. In some ways, that again made me a better curler, because in order to make electrical tape move on the ice well, your leg drive had to be super solid. You really had to push hard out of the hack. So I don't know when I upgraded to a slider, maybe when I was 16 or so, but it was good. Did you as a kid, did you have to win at Monopoly and Clue? Did you? Yes, I did. It would drive you nuts if you finished second? Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if that's just not all of my sisters are like that. I definitely had we weren't quitting Monopoly until I won. You know, well, you're out of money. And I don't think I'm going to land on something, and you're going to land on something. You're going to have to pay me rent, and I'll get my money back. No, definitely had a bit of, and I'm a middle child. Like there's 4 above me, 4 below. So I think birth order plays sort of a role in the fact that you need to win in order to be kind of recognized in the family, right? You can't. It's anybody from a big family would kind of understand that. Certainly the oldest of a family doesn't have to worry about that. The youngest doesn't, but the ones that are smack in the middle might, in order to get a little attention, you better win.
Were your mom or dad either hyper competitive?
No, they were not at all. They weren't into any kind of sports. I mean, and I kind of think that's typical of that kind of an environment as well. That first off, they were products of the Great Depression and then the war. They were let's survive kind of people. And then they were parents of 9 children. There was no time for leisure activities. It was strictly every day was kind of I think a bit of a grind for them. And I can only say that in hindsight. They kind of thought, they enjoyed our curling career, but yet they were, when are you getting on with life as well?
Right. What would you say when they'd ask you that particular question?
They never asked that question. They never asked that. There was an innuendo, more or less. And, but I'll never forget the first women's cash spiel was at the Chester Curling Club, and I'll never forget the phone call that came on the landline to say, we'd like you to play in this. And I couldn't believe that I was playing in something that I might win $2,000. Like, for me, that was more money than I had ever heard of. So, and it meant I was going to miss exams. And my father was, you're not going to miss exams for that. And I'm like going, oh, I'm missing exams. Like, I am so going down to play for this. So it was pretty exciting.
A minute left in this segment. Was it predetermined and destined that of the 4 positions on a curling team, were you always going to be the skip?
Almost, because I was second stone to start. We went to our first Canadian Junior Championship. We didn't win very many games. And at that point, I think we won 2 games. And I didn't like the fact that I thought I could make that shot. So immediately the following year after playing second stone, I skipped our team to go to the Canadian Junior. We didn't win that many more games. I think we won 5 or 6 games in that year. And then I'll never forget coming back from the Canadian Junior saying, I will never miss again. It's too hard to lose. I hate losing. I have to figure out a way never to miss a draw, never to miss an open hit. At least the easy shots, the gimmies you got to make.
The skip's amazing because you call every shot your team plays, and then you throw the 2 most pressure-packed, right? I mean,
well, I think every shot is pressure-packed in a curling game, and I tend to think that when I analyze my games, I think, oh, the skip is what lost it. But really, it is such a team sport that the mistakes made throughout every end can lead to a loss. So, but it's taken me a lifetime to figure that out.
Yeah, more good shots than bad for you and your team. We'll talk about the first national championship when we come back. Legends of the Hall with Colleen Jones here on Eastlink. Legends of the Hall with arguably the greatest female curler in the history of this country, although you don't like when I say that, do you?
Well, there's so many great curlers in the country, and it's a really subjective thing. Anytime you're measuring that, you could say that about any sport.
Yeah. Who do you think was better?
Oh, I really like where Jennifer Jones is right now, and I really like the future of Rachel Homan, who's, you know, Olympian and 2-time or 3-time Canadian champ, and now a world champion as well.
Yeah.
I really like, she's young. I mean, she's going to sort of rewrite record books, I think, so she's going to be amazing to watch.
Still in the conversation?
Sandra Schmirler is definitely in the conversation. And then globally, Annette Norberg, who we beat in one of the world finals, but went on to win 3 world championships and an Olympic gold. Globally, her record is hard to beat, even compared to a Canadian curler right now. She's out of Sweden, and also Elizabeth Gustafsson, won 3 world championships and an Olympic gold. So again, those records that the Swedish curlers have top what any Canadian curler has done.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation to have. For you, it kind of began in 1982. You were 22 and you became the youngest skip ever to win a Scotties.
It was the very first Scotties.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, when you look back on that, long time ago, but the memories still must be kind of fresh, huh?
They always remain reasonably fresh. I had Kay Zink, who won a Canadian Junior Championship out of Truro, and my sisters Monica and Barb playing front end. And we played a Manitoba team, Dot Rose, in the final. It was the very first Scotties and the infancy of women's game. Even though there had been Canadian championships prior to that, it didn't have the same longevity as the Brier, for example. And we were pretty much considered young whippersnippers in there, this young team from Nova Scotia, all in our early 20s. Monica would have been younger than me, so she would have been probably just 20. And we were considered brash, and it was an interesting time. It was just interesting to play in it. They just started the playoff round on CBC as well. Before that, whoever won the round robin was the Canadian champion.
Right, right.
And CBC came along and wanted the drama of a playoff. There was a lot of controversy in the game back then about establishing this sudden death playoff in a sport that had a long history of this. So anyhow, it was fun times. It was before the 3-rock rule or the 4-rock rule, so it was just open curling, old-time curling, for example, when there was none of this putting a guard in play and not being able to remove it.
Did you make the final the next year, too? Was it the next year you're back
2
in the
years,
final?
actually, we made the final in 1980, and we made the final in 84.
Right.
And in 80, we could have, would have, should have won. We were beyond nervous in that game in 1980 against Marge Mitchell from Saskatchewan. And we didn't, all of a sudden, you showed up for the final game, and you were just one sheet. And you were like, and the television lights were on. Ernie Afghanis was in his CBC pink outfit, the great old broadcaster. While you were throwing your last rock, he was getting ready to throw to commercial break. So you could hear him beside you saying, and the score is, and we'll be back after his colleague, and
you're
going,
20 years old, right?
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah, I was 20. And then in 84, we were playing Connie Laliberty, who I think is arguably one of the greatest curlers as well, out of Manitoba. And that was being played in Charlottetown. It was 10th end, and I made a shot to tie it, but no one told the bagpipers. They thought the game was over, and they started the bagpipes and marching in, and I had to kind of turn around and go, not yet, boys, put it back. So then it went into an extra end, and my last rock caught a little of something and was no good.
And that was it.
Yeah, I had a pick.
Yeah.
Although my son Lucas watched the highlights and he goes, I think you missed that shot. I'm going, no, I was just at the point where it was going to curl. I was not missing that shot. But anyhow, you always look at sometimes you look at the championships you lost. First off, you learn so much from, they might be torture, the games you lose, the big games, but they teach you an awful lot if you allow them to. But you always look back at the ones that got away and go, darn it, I wish I hadn't lost that. I wanted that opportunity.
So a win in 82, a final in 84, and then there's this big lull. Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of people in the media, especially the Western and Ontario media, said, well, she was a flash in the pan. She could win the provincials in Nova Scotia, but she'll come to the Scotties and go, whatever the record is, 5 and 6 or something like that. When there was that lull and you tried different teams through the years, did you ever see another Scotties win coming?
Yeah, you do, because that's why you play. So you're always thinking, I still have the ability. And you would get to the Scotties and you might either lose by 1 against a Sandra Schmirler. And when you're knocking on the door like that, you go, there's still some ability here to make big shots. And really after 84, I got married, I had Zach, I was building a career. I was still practicing, but I wasn't doing kind of the relentless work you need to do, which is sometimes the post-game stuff where you're analyzing what were the decisions I did wrong, because strategy is such a big part in the game. was my offense wrong? Was my defense wrong? And I didn't have a coach at that time to kind of go over the X's and O's of that. You were doing it yourself. And then had started curling with Kim Kelly by then. And we went to the Scotties in 1992, and a couple before that as well. And Kim was always sort of just magic on a team. She's first off more competitive than me. She might not like me saying that, but she definitely has a lot of killer instinct. And she's a natural thrower, natural shot maker. And so I knew she was gold. And after playing in the Scotties in '92, Nancy Delahunt sort of was like, I want to play too. And she was sort of untested as what kind of a champion could she be. And she came along and was a natural at lead. I mean, she just made herself, right? Yeah. She made herself into definitely one of the greatest leads the country's ever seen. And she allowed other great leads in Canada to inspire her to become a better player. Mostly Jane Hooper-Perreault, who played with Marilyn Bodo at the time. So she became great, and then we were missing that one ingredient. Like, we were just going through other players to figure out who do we need at third. And then we had the epiphany, our third is Kim. Move her up from second, bring in Marianne Arsenault, and then the magic began. And there is the greatest team in Nova Scotia history by, I think, a mile. Yeah. 99 in Charlottetown. There it is, right? The rebirth of Colleen Jones and her team. It was a rebirth big time, and there were so many sort of omens along the way that year that made you think this could be it. And I'll never forget playing in a big bonspiel in Thunder Bay, and we were so amazing. And I looked at the girls and said, we're good. And when you've had great before, and then you see great again, it really gets competitive juices going, and you just want to play hard. And then in Charlottetown, magical things just started happening. It was a great round robin. It was playing Kathy King or Kathy Borst in the final, who was the defending Canadian champ, and just having everything go our way, almost like we were a team of destiny. Yeah, we'll take a break. We'll look at a special highlight when we come back and talk about the glory years. It was 5 championships, 4 in a row for Colleen Jones and mates. Legends of the Hall continues. Legends of the Hall continues with the great Colleen Jones, the team of Nancy Delahunt at lead, Marianne Arsenault at second, Kim Kelly at third, you at skip. I mentioned before break, 5 national titles, 4 in a row, unprecedented stuff. Pinpoint one single reason why that was so magic. We were all committed. We were all committed to the same common goal. There wasn't one person not on the same page of this is what we want to do. And then once we got that taste of winning in '99 and that euphoric high, it was a bit addictive to want to get back. And then right after we won the Scotties, we went to the World Championship in St. John, New Brunswick, and we blew it. The ice was not great, in fairness to us. They even redid the ice at the midway point of that championship. And suddenly, after losing the World Championship, we felt like we had won nothing. We got to go back to the Scotties the next year as Team Canada, and we were horrible. I think we didn't know how to kind of handle the pressure of being Team Canada, and we didn't get the luxury of playing in a provincial to prepare us. So the following year, we got to go back as Team Nova Scotia. That started the run of 4 championships in a row. By then, we were a well-oiled machine. We knew exactly sort of, here's our schedule, this is what we do. We mapped out the schedule. We all bought in. And then one of the missing ingredients after losing in the 2000 Scotties, before we started the run of 4 in a row, we realized our heads were getting in the way of us. Our mental focus when we went off the rails, we went off the rails. So that's when we brought in Ken Bagnall as a sports psychologist, and he became our coach, and that really helped us a lot. He made us mentally stronger. We did the work to get mentally stronger. We became just so mentally tough that nothing could bother us. If we had a bad end, we didn't keep sliding down the hill. We knew how to stop it now, which was really important, to learn how to park stuff.
Right. You listened to Springsteen before big games?
Listen to Springsteen
What
before.
Song? What song?
Two, Born to Run and Thunder Road. They've been the story of my life, both of them. And I started listening to that, way back in early 1980s.
Right. Why did people make such a big deal out of you chewing gum?
I don't know, and they never came to me. The only people who came to me about chewing gum, they would have said, keep chewing, and here's a pack, and what do you chew? I'll get you more gum. If anybody was criticizing me for chewing gum, they never came to me and said, oh, that looks horrible, except my mom.
Did you do that just to sort of keep rhythm, keep your mind on?
No, it definitely, there's so much stress. To me, it helped expel it. Is that the right word? But chewing really de-stressed me in a big way.
You still throw a lot of rocks today, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I enjoy the kind of fitness part of it, and I do keep it up no matter what. We're playing seniors. I won't play this year because of the Olympic run for CBC, but we definitely enjoy the over 50 crowd. And at last year's World Championships, we were playing against people we played at the World Championships. Jackie Lockhart was there from Scotland, who beat us in one of the World Championships. Patty Lank was there from the United States. I think she might have beat us too, but not at the World Seniors, she didn't. But it's a great game, and when you can be in a sport that's a lifetime sport, whether it's golf or tennis, when you see the flashes of what you were or still are, it's enjoyable. Keep it up.
I want to ask you about physical fitness. People that I know that have met you for the first time are confounded by how small a person you are, but how in shape you are. You've always stayed that way, haven't you?
We got lucky when we became Team Canada and got to work with SportsCenter Atlantic, that we got a trainer right away, and they kind of, here, do squats and walking lunges till you die. But that was really good for us to do, and we became stronger as curlers, and then you realize that's pretty good for life. So now we work out with the personal trainer Neil Hayes, and we enjoy still doing almost pretty close to the same kind of workout we did when we were having our magical run. Kind
of fair to say that you pioneered physical fitness and mental fitness, is it not?
It was a time in curling. Now it's commonplace that everybody's doing this, and you barely see an out-of-shape curler. But definitely at that time, 1999, when they said, and now we want you to work out with a trainer, it was, oh, well, do we have to do more than what we're already doing? Because we were doing our own little kind of workouts on our own. And then you realize, wow, you're taking it to the next level of trying to get a lot fitter, a lot stronger. And it served us very, very well. Now, every curler on tour is doing that exact same thing, which is awesome to see.
Final thought for you, and this is a bit of a deep one, but what has curling meant for your life?
Oh, it's meant so much. I mean, and you kind of appreciate it more the older you get, but I mean, it shaped every part of my life because of the early part that I got to go to the Canada Games and Canadian Juniors. It made me a very focused, disciplined person. It made me set goals more. And then I met my husband through curling and dragged the kids to the curling club. I think that for my children, Zach and Luke, I think they were able to look at a mother who competed and realize that for them that was commonplace. To continue to have dreams as you age, I think they looked at that as that's what people do, even though maybe not everybody does that. They thought that was normal. So I think it really has been a guiding force in my life, and it's given me, when I think of the friends I have, not just my teammates now with Mary Sue Radford, Nancy Delahunt, Kim Kelly, but Marianne Arsenault is still in my life, Marianne's team, we work out with them, with the trainer. That's all pretty cool.
Great to have you on the show.
Nice to be with you.
Colleen Jones, one of the best ever in this country. I'm going to say the best. She not necessarily will. That's Legends of the Hall, the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, open 10 to 5 every weekday. Free admission at Scotiabank Centre in Halifax. We will see you next time.